Buddy, hello Gravitrons. I'm more gravity. Let's play chess. Just won this game about a minute or two ago, and it turned out to be highly accurate with some fireworks, tactically speaking. So let's go through, and I'll diagram most moves, move by move. King's pawn opening, and this is like already out of book on move two by my playing pawn to c5. It's still, for Blitz Online, it's not so bad to get your pawn on c5 in front of the knight, which will develop to c6. Knight to f3 is straightforward and logical. There's no real clear aggressive way for white to play here. So just getting the knight out developed on a good square is plenty good. Knight c6, like we said, behind the c pawn, and then bishop to c4 brings us back into book. Some kind of, I'm not exactly sure. This is some kind of book. It could become a four knights with knight f6, but then there would be the pawn on c5 still preventing an Italian four knights with bishop c5 can't occur. So yeah, I'd say this is just some kind of book that I'm not currently apprised of. We're actually reasonably deep into book here with five or four full moves and a half move, and then just a developing move, knight f6. d3 is strong with the central pawn chain controlling a lot of space in the center. Also now the dark squared white bishop on c1 has a number of really awesome developing squares to which he may travel. So could be a powerful piece for white. So d3 is not bad. So by the same token, neither is d6. There's one key difference between black and white here. Is note that the board is mostly symmetrical. Of course, the c5 pawn, and also the placement of the light squared bishops, with white's light squared bishop outside the pawn chain and black's light squared bishop a good bishop, technically because of the color of his central pawns. Black has a strong light squared bishop as well. And actually, as it turns out, because of how the knights are in relation to their queens and where the bishops are, black might be slightly better here, relying on a pin by playing relying on a pin by playing bishop to g4. As we see here, getting aggressive right away with knight to d5 is probably fine, but you might also think about here, as white, one might also think about pawn to h3, preventing both the knight and the bishop from accessing the g4 square, where if it's accessed with the bishop, could levy a pin against white's queen, against the knight, and looking towards white's queen. d5 keeps things intact if white plans on capturing on e7. That might not be the only way, but it's one of the ways to keep this attack on bishop G, the attack stemming from bishop g4, from succeeding. So if white captures on e7, she or they'll be doing fine. But short of that, black might have a strong attack. See the capture on e7. So I take that back. I think black is doing well here. Torch disagrees, but there's a lot of pressure existing or coming against the f3 knight. Even in some variations, the queen can add even more pressure. h3, bishop h5, g4, knight takes g4 is correct. This is a correct way for black to proceed. H takes g4 bishop takes g4, and now we see the point that this knight is under so much fire. I discussed how white's bishop would be outside the pawn chain, and that affects his her they ability to double back to e2 and break the pin, as well as protect again the knight on f3. So this pawn on d3 turns out to be, I said it was a solid move and it allowed the dark squared bishop, but you know, it also depends on subsequent moves. This pawn on d3 is a bit of a bugaboo for white. A bit of a he's a bit of whatever, but he's getting in the way. King to g2. Knight to d4, putting extra pressure on the knight we plan to capture with check and subsequently capture the queen. White will do something to try to mollify, mitigate, or reduce the severity of that. And king g3 is not adequate. He's trying to keep enough defenders on the f3 knight, but if I capture with, let's say I capture bishop takes f3, then queen takes f3, knight takes f3, king takes f3, you had enough defenders on the relevant square, but one of the lost pieces was your queen. So that's not good enough for white. So, I'm critical of king to g3. Not that white has all that many great options, but I'm not sure. I'm going to consult the analysis by Torch, and the indication is that white should break the pin, allow black to capture the queen, and then there's at least two pieces away from black's army to go against the missing queen. Here we see on the square here, yeah, that's pretty much a little bit of complication. It's not quite that straightforward, it seems, but the point is that actually breaking the pin is best for white here. I'm not going to go into that in detail. It's a great move, a great catch by Torch, but we'll go along with how the game was played. Like I said, I'm going to capture on f3, and my opponent did exactly what I said would probably not be great for white, is to capture on f3 with his queen, losing the queen, and now black has a lot of extra material. So straightforward trades, and then a checkmate. Overall, not my favorite game, and I thought it was gonna be. I had fun playing it and all, but it's quite accurate. So I guess I'll take it. Yeah, it's a good game, So neither my opponent nor I have much to hang our heads about, and black ends up victorious in this sort of a miniature, sometimes a 23 move game. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Gravitrons. I'm more gravity. Have a great night.